PM.
Still not bad. Good stuff.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here at the council meeting today. I'll start, there is no one for the public forum, so I'll start with the acknowledgement of country. Snorri Valley's council proudly acknowledges the traditional owners and the custodians of this land and water and pay respects to their elders past and present. Apologies? Have you received any apologies? No. And declarations of pecuniary interest. We have three. One is for four. One is for myself, 11.2, due to a close and personal and financial interest, and I will be leaving the room. And then Councillor Packard, 10.7, as he's the chair of the Country University Centre, but Councillor Packard will remain in the room with a non-significant non-pecuniary interest. 11.7, Jessica Quilty, and she has a non-pecuniary but a significant interest, and she will be leaving the room. And 11.7, Councillor Hayes, he's declared a non-significant non-pecuniary interest in relation to 11.7, and he will remain in the meeting room.
I think it's 10.7.
10.7, yeah.
10.7 for you,
Yeah, no, yeah, for both of those.
10.7 for Hugh and James.
10.7. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Okay. To page 6, confirmations of the minutes. Do I have to move the pecuniary? No. Confirmation of minutes. Moved by Councillor Thompson. I might just address the council first. Live streaming of council meeting. This meeting is live streamed on council website to allow the community to follow council debates and decision. Member of the public's participating in a meeting agree to have their image, voice and personal information, including name and address, recorded and publicly. Snorri Valley's council does not accept liability for any defamatory remarks or inappropriate comments that are made during the course of a meeting. Any part of the meeting that is held in closed session will not be streamed. Councillors are reminded of the oath or affirmation of office they made under section 233A of the Local Government Act 1993 and the obligations of the council's code of conduct to disclose and appropriately manage conflict of interest. Please ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or on silent mode for the duration of the meeting, and no recording of voice or images is permitted via mobile phones or other electronic devices when in the room. In the event of an emergency, please evacuate the building using the nearest exit and following the instructions given by the wardens. Do not use the lift. If participating in the meeting from an alternate venue, please enact the evacuation plan for that location if required. Thank you, councillors. Okay, now we'll go to page 6, the confirmation of minutes. And that's been moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Sheldon. Councillor Thompson?
No, it's all there, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
All in favour?
Before you do.
Yep.
There was one here on a 4.2C. Good gander. Just trying to find.
Just passing the last minute.
23 of the agenda, Councillor Hay, 11.3.
Yes. So just been trying to work out, as I said at the time, this makes sense to me, but just doesn't sort of tick all the boxes. So how can we get around this? Now, the way other councils are apparently doing this is that they have
Councillor Hayes,
So-
is it
so-
corrections to the minutes?
no. What I'd like to do is foreshadow a motion. So the motion will be that we look at changing, and I'll write it all out, look to change the LEP and minor amendment to the LEP And as far as the boundary adjustment, we changed the word for boundary adjustment to boundary change.
Point of order, Madam
So
Mayor.
adjusting the
Point,
word.
point of
So
order.
that's the,
We have a point of order here.
Point of order, at the moment, we have the minutes before us, and if the minutes actually reflect what happened at the last meeting, they need to actually be moved, seconded and passed. And then if councillor Hayes, wants to foreshadow a motion. But at the moment, the minutes are correct as they stand unless otherwise. So we just need to
So
deal
this is
with the
about the
minutes.
correction to the
This
minutes,
is about,
which
if
has
there's a
been moved
correction to the
and
minutes,
seconded.
Yeah.
All those in favour? Unanimous? Councillor Hayes, you want to? have
Carry
a-
on.
You've done your foreshadowed.
yes,
motion,
so
and that's for
that's
the
all,
August meeting?
that's all, yes, so. It's the plan.
Thank you.
So I'm just trying to find a way to improve the process and to.
Just like a quick comment if I may. Council is due to do a comprehensive review of our LEP and we're already partially completed some of the underpinning sort of work. But obviously we can't commence until the manager sort of decision is out of place. So yes, that is part and it can form part of that sort of review.
And you're not the first general manager to say that. We've been hearing that for 8 years, so, but I think this is a minor amendment and that's what I'm proposing. Let's see.
Oh, hello, councillor. Okay, correspondence and petitions. Nothing noted. Mayoral minute. The first mayoral minute is to endorse appreciation for the recent visit to Snorri Valley's area by the Ambassador of Denmark to Australia, Her Excellency Mrs. Ingrid Dahl Masden, and support and encourage the ongoing friendship to the Danish community through their interest with the Snorri Valley's sculpture trail. We wrote a letter of appreciation and I will pass around her letter of appreciation back. So that was good. Moved by
you.
me, seconded by councillor Hayes. All those in favour?
Just-
All those in favour, sorry.
You don't.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to carry.
Carry, unanimous. The second mayoral minute is about the opening of the Tumbarumba Sports Academy. A letter of appreciation has been written to the committee, particularly pointing out there's a driver in every one of these sort of projects. Pat Reinhardt's done an amazing job with his committee and the Tumbarumba community getting behind it. So there was a letter written in that and it's going really well. And thank you to particularly the Director of Infrastructure who worked so hard with them to get this lease done. And it's so good to see assets, Snorri Valley's Council being used so well. All in favour? Unanimous. I'd like to acknowledge Shirley Ann Williams-Enever, who worked for the council, Tumbarumba Shire and then Snorri Valley's Council for 43 years, working her way up till she was the acting director of corporate at one stage. She was a great lady and her husband, Murray, is still working with Snorri Valley's Council. So our condolences to Murray and the family and she is remembered very fondly by the Tumbarumba community. All those in favour? And the final minute was councillor Thompson and I were privileged to be at Cootamundra Gundagai today to be part of the announcement that they are now going to demerge. So it was a very, councillor Thompson can speak to it in half tick, but it was a very happy event. The vibe was very positive and of course it puts us in line, hopefully, to be the next person in line. And the minister was very open to the suggestion of coming to visit us within the month to tell us what the next steps are for us heading towards a constitutional referendum.
Oh, look, I just think it was lovely to see Mayor Ab McAllister was incredibly emotional. This is something that Gundagai fought so hard leading up to the merger announcements. And, you know, even the minister today spoke and said that Paul Toole and the Minister for Local Government at the time and Mike Baird, who was the Premier, both said that there would be absolutely no forced amalgamations or mergers, and then both reneged on that and made the announcements. And just to see the emotion for Council, you know, Mayor McAllister today, it was so raw and very genuine. And even they, I don't think have quite figured out how they're going to do this, because the reality is that the minister made it very clear that it is now up to the elected representatives of the former Cootamundra Gundagai Council to figure out what their next steps are and how they're going to implement it. But it was also asked several times by the media if there was going to be additional funding, which there won't be. So it now puts Gundagai and Cootamundra in the position of working out how they're going to demerge. So it was quite a monumental day, and I think that, you know, I'm not sure if Mayor McAllister quite knows how he feels tonight, but there was a lot of emotion and a lot of relief that it's come to this point, and now the hard work starts of demerging. Sorry, Madam Mayor, I'll just also acknowledge that today there was the funeral for Yvonne Braid, OAM, and a really significant figure in local government and media across local government.
Thank you for that. All those in favour? Unanimous. And just one final minute is just to congratulate all new presidents of the Rotary and Lions clubs between Shumat, Batlow and Tumbarumba. I think as councillors, we all acknowledge the work that these service clubs do, and thank God we have you, and you work so hard, and we're better places because of you. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Notice of rescission. 8.1, we have a notice of motion, productivity and cost saving plan. Councillor David Shaw.
There's not much.
Moved, seconded by Councillor Larder. Thank you.
Look, I think we've looked at the long term. We've had the long-term financial plan. We've had the budget that's been put out to us. Unfortunately, it's a large deficit. Hopefully it will turn out to be, but we do need to have a look at our overall costings and efficiencies. And thanks to conversations with the mayor and the AGM and the directors from each department, I think it's needed that we put together a plan and make some savings where we can. And basically that we report back to council with every 6 months saying where we're up to and what savings what initiatives we've put in place and what savings we foresee.
Any other speakers? All those in favour? Unanimous. Well done, Councillor Sheldon. 8.2, notice of motion, protect elms near racecourse. Councillor Rena Thompson.
I'd like to move the motion, Madam Mayor, as is.
Seconded by Councillor Packard.
Madam Mayor, thank you, and councillors. The concern that I have is that we have some of the most iconic elm trees in the world, not even just Tumut or Australia. They are actually acknowledged and identified because of elm leaf beetle that took out so many over in Europe. So it's so important that we actually do what we can to help protect these trees. And what is happening on an ongoing basis is that it's now becoming a driving course for inappropriate driving behaviours. They do circle work around the trees. They're compacting the root systems. When it was dry, it was creating dust storms, and now that we've had rain, they're creating even bigger grooves in the ground. Council is spending money having to send a grader down to actually clear the paths because the footpaths themselves have become very dangerous to both walkers and cyclists. Somebody who had an issue and slid out on it before it was graded last week. So this is something that I'm asking council to prepare a report to identify some of the strategies that we can put in place to address this issue, and maybe also some of the driving behaviours along East Street, whether or not there's the opportunity to have speed the speed test areas, but predominantly my concern is for our beautiful elms. We need to do more. We're talking about the shot hole borer. We've already got the elms and we need to look after them. They are iconic to our region. They are part of our Festival of Falling Leaf and some of the most photographed trees. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any other comments? Councillor Hay? That's yours.
Sorry, what was that?
That was what took out the ones mostly ragus's.
There was
Yeah.
also elm leaf beetle.
All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. And councillor Thompson, notice of motion lobbying for road safety.
Madam Mayor, I'll move this with an addition, please. That in point 1, at the end of the flat tyres, I'd like to identify on the roads between Tumut and Tumbarumba, Tumut and Talbingo, and the Adlong and Batlow turn off on the Snowy Mountains Highway.
First seconded for the councillor Sheldon with those amendments. Discussion?
Madam Mayor, just very quickly, we attended the National General Assembly a couple of weeks ago, and as part of that, I attended the session on safer roads. And it became very evident that partly what happens, particularly as we're noticing with Snowy 2.0 and the transmission work that's going on, because they're considered projects of state or federal, local government doesn't really have the opportunity to be able to identify not just the damage to our roads that is being created, but the increase of driver behaviours and the pattern of use and the increased vehicles within those roads. It also becomes really evident that as they're putting more and more road barriers along the side of the road and an increase of the unbroken lines, it's exacerbating the driver behaviours. I've had incidents of going to Tumbarumba, travelling 20 kilometres an hour behind 2 vehicles and watching a vehicle in front of me overtake the 2 in front of me on double lines. We need our state and federal government to take seriously the impacts on our local government area when they are considering these projects. There's also the issue of we have increased visitation to our region of caravans and Winnebagos and grey nomads. They have nowhere even to pull over if they get a flat tyre or if they want to let a log truck or another vehicle go past. That again is creating the driver behaviour issues. And this is why I think it's so important that we start lobbying now so that for the future we can make sure that our roads are safer and it's not just about fixing the potholes but actually increasing the drivability.
Any other discussion? Councillor Nutter?
I only just say that this is similar to what happened with the airport committee. You know, I think this should come through the traffic committee before it goes anywhere.
Thank you. Councillor Sheldon?
All I will say, the road Snowy Mountains Highway through to Tumut, right the way through to Talbingo, has been on the upgrades, and these, what councillor Thompson is suggesting, has been suggested. People are going to work on it since 2003. There you go, and it's something's got to happen.
Anyone else? Councillor Thompson, do you want
I'll
to
just
close
look
that?
quickly, while I can appreciate some level of what councillor Larder has raised here, this doesn't rely on the traffic committee for us as a council to say that we need to be considered more within state and federal planning of significant projects. It's something that, yes, we can identify within the traffic committee, but we as a council, just as we did with the Go Cup Road, we need to start lobbying now because it's not going to happen in the next month or so. It needs to be an ongoing program. So I'd encourage that we pass this so that we can start straight away.
Thank you.
I'd just like to comment. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
The argument's been closed. Sorry, councillor.
I just wanted to add I guess, an argument against.
Sorry, we'll close the argument. It goes to a vote. All those in favour? Okay, and you against, councillor Larder, councillor Words?
Can I just put,
Yeah, sure.
I think this needs to be endorsed. I think Councillor was right. This needs to be endorsed, but. And if we do start lobbing, it hasn't been a traffic committee, and they go, what's the
It
traffic?
just makes
committee?
sense.
Isn't that another point of order?
Yep. Agreed. Thank you. Urgent business without notice. I think councillor Narato, you've got something there?
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move an urgent motion that council write to the new RFS Commissioner, Trent Curtin, to invite him to visit the Snowy Valleys Council promptly to discuss the collaboration of Snowy Valleys Council with independent aviation operators and the RFS.
I have a seconder. Councillor Sheldon. Would you like to speak to it?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I think I congratulate the new commissioner on his appointment. I've heard very good things about him, and I'm hoping that we can encourage him to come to the Snowy Valleys and not only meet us here at the chambers, but take him out to the airport and let him speak to the aviation RFS approved operators out there about what the needs and wants are and the current situation. And I think given the fact that we've got this hangar proposal that's yet to come back to council for endorsement, and there's been letters written to the previous commissioner about the competition neutrality breaches. There's been a whole myriad of information that's been not included at council in deliberation of these matters. So I think it's incumbent on him to come and be briefed, and you know, we can work collaboratively with them to get a good outcome for everyone.
And with the RFS Control Centre coming
Yeah,
on
but-
board. Yeah. I beg your pardon, councillor Packer?
I was going to say the same thing, that I think we need to get some sort of a roadmap of where they're thinking around that control centre too, because that seems to be something of a movable feast.
Yeah.
Not just limited to the hangar discussion.
Any other discussion?
I concur with councillor and with councillor Packard that, you know, there has been confusion over this right from word go, and I actually think with the new boy on the block, we might get a decent path forward, and it might allay a lot of fears from some of our councillors. Me again, in particular, our long-term financial plan. If we've got a road forward, it'll help us.
Any other
And we'll
discussion?
stop that again.
You want to close the debate?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, I think in summary, yeah, I think the main concern of myself, and I know a couple of other councillors, was that the existing businesses in this region are not dealt a blow so severe that they can't continue. And I think it's absolutely essential that the RFS Commissioner comes and speaks to those stakeholders, speaks to us, and we end up with a package moving forward that benefits the entire community. And I think we can do that. I think that this guy is very reasonable, and I'm hoping that those meetings will be encouraging.
All those in favour? Unanimous. Yes, so now we move to 10.1. It's the council resolution action report for July. Do I have a mover? Councillor Sheldon. Councillor Packard. Councillor Sheldon.
Once again, I think it's great, but look, there's only one question I have in here. The first one meant to be finished the 31st of the 5th. Where are we? Curbside gutter, curbside collection policy.
Oh,
If it is finished, why is it still on the
Okay.
list?
6 page
43.
up the top there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been completed.
It's been complete.
Complete, so the.
Shouldn't be on the list then.
From.
It's
Sorry.
after the month.
Yes, just to confirm, so that was the date it was due to be completed. So usually when something's completed, we just leave it on the list once. So after this meeting, it will then drop off. But there's just that sort of record.
So you know that it's been completed.
Yes, so rather than just sort of, yeah, like drop off, we mark it complete and then go off.
Mayor, just on page 41, item 11 point. Just a clarification. That's going to be
Through you, Madam Mayor, that resolution of council has been ongoing for a number of years, even though it's got February, the preamble has been going for a number of years in back to Cumberland Council. Unfortunately, a person involved with that process has since passed away, so we will place this one on hold and continue to work in the background, but I'm happy to leave it on the list if council wishes.
I've had this for months.
One other thing that.
Councillor Hayes.
To be advised.
Couple of things there that you mentioned, but one thing we did mention and we haven't solution was we continue to look for funds for the purchase of the land at the airport. And it doesn't seem to be something on water. We could have a resolution.
To the director.
Potable water air precinct.
For you, Mayor, that's a resolution of council from December 2024, so
Remember?
it should be on the list.
Yeah, just so we don't have things fall off.
I'd like to speak to 7.1, page 44, which was about the drought in our area that we're experiencing, the green drought. And for that reason, 5 councils have got together to have a Southern New South Wales Drought Summit. And I would like to encourage everyone here at this table and in the council area to at least register. If you register, you get sent the copy. The more people who register, the more it will show that people are concerned and it is affecting our economy. Even if you're not a primary producer, it is affecting our economy in our shops down the main street. And I appreciate that people put work into that. It's on the 4th of August, it's virtual. And we've got quite a few politicians lined up, people from the DPI, Software Working Group, LLS, who will come to speak to it. Thank you. Any other comments on 10.1? No, would you like to close argument, councillor Sheldon?
No, I'm happy for it to close.
All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. 10.2, Local Government New South Wales Code of Meeting Practice Training for Councillors on the 23rd of July. 2 recommendations there.
I'll move.
Moved by councillor Packer, seconded by councillor Harvey. Councillor Packer,
I think it needs any discussion.
all those in favour? Unanimous. 10.3, Riverina Eastern Regional Organisations of Councils Conference on the 10th and 11th of September. 2 recommendations there. Councillor Sheldon, councillor Hayes, councillor Sheldon.
Nothing, I just think it's something good that we should be involved in and congratulate those who wish to attend.
Although, any
Madam
other
Mayor,
speakers?
I'd like to actually put my hand up to go to that one too, please. So if that's okay to include in the first point.
Yeah, I approve the attendance of other councillors wishing
Yep.
to attend.
See,
Yeah. Nothing else, councillor Sheldon? All those in favour? Unanimous. 10.4, Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference, the 23rd to 25th of November in Penrith. 4 recommendations there. Councillor Sheldon, councillor Hayes, councillor Sheldon.
nothing, another thing that I think we should be involved in.
We do need to nominate up to 2 council voting delegates for motions. I'm happy to attend. Councillor Packer,
Yeah, I'll be attending.
people are happy with councillor Ham and Packer.
Madam Mayor, I would just like to acknowledge that I would probably need something along the lines in relation to our roads and understanding that even for us to start lobbying, in order for us to be able to start lobbying, we would also need, or should I say, reverse the other way, the traffic committee would like to know that council endorses what's been raised in relation to the roads. So,
So
traffic-
point 3, to submit proposed motions.
yep, so I'll put something together and send that through to the acting general manager. But just to acknowledge that based on the comments earlier, that the traffic committee would like to know that council actually
I see.
approves what we're doing, which is why the notice of motion does need to go ahead before going to the traffic committee. Yep. Knowing that for the traffic committee to be aware that council endorses it.
So councillor Sheldon, do you want to close debate? All those in favour? Unanimous. 10.5, review draft code of conduct and draft procedures for administration code of conduct.
I'll move it, Madam.
Moved by councillor Thompson, seconded by councillor Worth. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Madam. I need to say very quickly that this is adopting what we already have, and that when the Office of Local Government actually does its update of what they're looking at for the code of conduct and procedures, then we can, as a council, have a workshop on that and change it. But this is endorsing what we already have in accordance with the fact that we need to do it for 12 months.
Any other speakers? All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 10.6, review draft code of practice, meeting practice. I have a mover. Councillor Packard, councillor Hybrid. Councillor Packard.
It's the same as the last motion that went through. This is something we have to do. We don't have a lot of wriggle room or area to move. So it's just that we have to do.
Councillor Sheldon?
No.
No. No other speakers? All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 10.7, draft managing conflicts of interest for council's related development policy. Councillor Sheldon, seconded by councillor Wirtz. Councillor Sheldon?
Yes, look, there is, although I understand the recommendations, I do have concern because there's a draft managing conflict of interest for councils related to development policies. At present, we are going through 2 policies that actually can be affected by this, and clarification and understanding by councillors, I believe, is very important. And I would recommend that we hold a workshop so councillors do understand the impact of this, where, so excuse me, council is policing itself in some of these developments, and to understand why and whose authority they can have to do it. And I think it's really important that we as councillors understand this, so when we're asked by the public, we've got a full understanding and comprehension of how it fits in.
Thank you, councillor Sheldon. Councillor Inglis.
I'd like to support what councillor Sheldon has said. I must say I had some difficulty in understanding the draft policy, which is annexed, and it should be simply or simple, not only for council but for the community ones, so that they know what's going to happen if there is a conflict of interest. And I think that with a bit of I suppose massaging and more careful attention, we can reduce the size of it. We don't need to say in 5,000 words what can be said in 50 words. And I think there would be the opportunity to do that if we do workshop it and have some input from all councillors.
To your acting general manager, that we're able to do that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, Council Inglis. So this policy was created from the model policy from the DPIE. Essentially, this policy is quite time critical, especially for a couple of DAs that are with council at the moment. My understanding from Councillor Sheldon, the idea of the workshop was to more understand the policy and how it's applied to council related DAs. So essentially, I suggest that council still put out a policy for exhibition, and then we hold a workshop to sort of understand what essentially just because of the time criticality of the policy itself.
But moving forward, as councillor Inglis said, can we ever simplify our policies?
Of course, so they're council policies as such. As I said, this was sort of based on the model policy, but yeah, we can change some.
I think
work
he's
to it.
capable of simplification. You know, we've got several different definitions of conflict, several different remedies. I think it's fundamentally too complex.
So we'll take that to the workshop. Thank you. Councillor Packer?
Just a comment. Sometimes when there's a complex set of policies, there could be a simplified user guide, if you like, so we could still adopt this policy, but then develop Councillor English suggested something which then condenses that down into a much more user-friendly sort of,
Yeah, like a fact sheet that goes with the policy.
something like
We'll
that.
close debate.
You want to close
The
the debate?
KISS philosophy. Keep it simple, stupid.
Is that the end of your debate?
Yes, that's.
All those in favour? Unanimous. Oh, sorry. Councillor Larder, Hayes, Packer. Everyone, by councillor English. Ten point eight. Proposal to alter First Nations Liaison Committee meeting format. Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Works. Councillor Thompson.
Madam Mayor, just very, very quickly, I think what's really important here is to understand the intent of these actual committees, and I think that having the separate committees, because they are different areas within our local government area, you can't just put a generic umbrella over First Nations and just treat it exactly the same. And I think it's respectful to the location of each to actually hold separate meetings. I am the delegate and I'm happy to travel both to Tumbarumba and Pyramid. And I think testimony to that is that last week for NAIDOC week, both communities held amazing, council facilitated, but they were so completely different because in Tumbarumba, they organised what they wanted to include as part of council, and down in Tuam, it was something completely different. And it just demonstrated to me why we need to respect the difference between our different areas.
Thank you. No other speakers? All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. 10.9, councillors' expenses for 6 months period ending the 30th of June. Councillor Packard. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Potter. All those in favour? Unanimous. 10.10, statement of investments, June 2025. Councillor Sheldon. Councillor Packard. Councillor Sheldon.
There's two questions. Once actually to the, if I may, Madam Mayor, to the Chief Financial Officer. As the world is changing and the markets are changing, how do you see our investments going within the next 6 months?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Talking about this council.
Our investments.
Well
Yeah, so the investments have increased. And 4.1 mil. Predominantly, as I've mentioned before, that it is locked into the externally restricted cash. What is critical to know is from this report that is presented, 91% of the term deposits will be maturing within the next 12 months. So we essentially have majority of the portfolio of deposits maturing within the next 12 months. But if there was any rate cut introduced by the RBA, then essentially each rate cut would be $250,000 less investment income than what we have budgeted. So if there's 2 rate cuts, then it would be $500,000 less than budget. And if it's 1, then 250,000.
Wow.
At a high level, based on the current portfolio of 62.5 mil. If we draw down on any investments, then that's a different story. But I guess that's really at a high level snapshot relating to this council. we do have cash sitting in the savings account, which we can cover all the operational expenses. So we are not thinking to borrow or borrow any money.
Is that for the government's recommended 3 months? We've got that operational money?
Yes, we do have 2 months of cash, which is as per the
months.
policy.
Next question. Could you just explain some more about the major cash receipts? Because there's a fair whack that's come in, and like the fags, I think Councillor Packard alluded to earlier on.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So we have 3 major cash receipts for this investment report. The 2 top ones are the Transport New South Wales, which is the road maintenance, and the EPARW, which is the emergency works. So what would have happened is those cash receipts, the work's been done, and we're claiming the receipts for the private works that the council would have performed. So that's 2 of those receipts. The other one is 400K, which is also the private works related. FAG's money that has come in, it's accounted or recognized on a cash basis. So we budgeted 85% based on what we had received last year. But we have only received 50% of the FAG's money. So it is going to show up as a discrepancy in the budget, but it will be recorded in 24-25 financial statements.
Any other discussion? All those in favour? Unanimous. Now we're to our management report. 11.1 multi-purpose and evacuation centre project update July 2025. Councillor Sheldon. Councillor Packer.
Whilst I note the report, I do have some clarifications, if I may. Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Acting Director of Community and Corporate Development. In the original conditions handed down by I think the Southern Region, on page, I think it was 12 or 11, at the top of it, one of the conditions was 70 people were allowed to use the centre, and that was on an email that was sent out to one of our ratepayers. But yet in Council's report today, or released earlier on this week, that condition seems to be omitted. Now, the reason I ask that question is it does ask our ratepayers what's going on. It's there 1 minute and gone the next. Now, if we want to show truth, transparency, I would really think clarification like this is sought and understood, not just by the councillors, but also by the wider community.
So through the chair, the original proposal that was submitted to council for assessment included a number of specialist reports. Those specialist reports included a traffic study and also a noise report, by way of example. The initial traffic study based some assumptions around having a maximum of 70 people on site at any one time. The noise report that was associated with that development then used those assumptions around the 70 number that was provided in those original specialist reports related to traffic. And the assessment was undertaken on that basis. Now, council's independent planning consultant, he's obviously recognised that those numbers were in the specialist reports. He's then included those as a condition of consent as the maximum occupancy of the site, the 70. The Southern Region Planning Panel, when they met and discussed the actual application, raised some concerns around that, particularly asking where those numbers came from, because there was a conflict in the actual conditions. One related to a maximum occupancy of 70. The other one was a maximum occupancy of 250. On that basis, the acoustics consultant was requested to go away and have a look at that. There was found to be no issue up to 250. So the Southern Region Planning Panel requested that recommended condition be amended to remove the 70 occupancy and now it's silent in that regard. There is a maximum of four events per year that's up to a maximum. So that's essentially why that condition or restriction was removed from the draft conditions of consent.
Right, next clarification, if I may, Madam Mayor. The landscaping, is there a budget for the landscaping, or is it, could you please clarify that where the money is for landscaping?
Through the chair, there is an allocation for landscaping for this project, which includes a budget to take into any additional costs associated with the conditions that have been imposed on this development. It is covered off in the funding that's been provided under the BLURF funding. And we can confirm that the amount that we believe that it's going to cost has been completely covered by that grant.
Councillor Johnson.
Sorry, no, you've got
No.
more?
Next one is, it has been raised, electrical substation. Do we need one for the MPC centre?
Is there a question? Through you, Madam Mayor, all that is required is upgrading the existing substation, which is what we've allowed for in the tender and what's allowed for in the grant. So we don't need a new substation, we're upgrading the existing one.
That's all been approved.
Yes.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just again to the acting director. You mentioned that the original figure of 70 was based on the specialist reports that came for parking and noise. I can understand that with the parking may not be such an issue with 250 if people come by buses, things like that. So the parking may not be the issue. But with the specialist noise report, there's a big difference between 70 people and 250 people. So does that noise report need to be reviewed in relation to if the numbers are higher, considering it is one of the major issues of concern for the local residents?
So through the chair, the panel did request that noise report be reviewed. So it was a supplementary acoustics report was prepared based on the 250 number. And that's the reason why that 70 disappeared and dropped off the draft commission.
So, and I have one other question. Just in relation to the shadow report, I must say I found it very difficult to understand exactly because it was just lots of wavy bits. Is it correct that the building itself is not going to have an impact on the houses in Robertson Street?
Through the chair, that's correct. It's not. So it's taken at the winter solstice, which is June 21 and 22.
Yep.
And then this worked out the maximum shadow reach of the building at that time. It's measured at 9, 12 and 3. And at those times, there's been no impact on those demands.
Councillor Lighter, then Councillor Ings.
I was just going to ask, in the event that an emergency, say for instance, like a section 44 bushfire and that facility is used, are those conditions of consent with regards to numbers, are they then?
So in the event of emergency, those numbers, there's no restriction on the numbers.
Councillor Ings.
I just noticed in the notice of determination that the applicant is the facility design group. We know were retained to do that, but the owner of the property is described as a Tumut Bowling and Recreational Club. What's the situation there?
So through the chair, that has been raised with me by a member of the community this morning. In relation to the Tumut Bowling and Recreation Club, that is what's showing on council's records at the moment as the owner of the land of one portion of those two lots. I understand from the project manager that that's required to be updated, and that hasn't occurred yet in council's records.
So the report's incorrect in terms of the owner described in it. That is the development application.
Through the chair, the notice of determination reflects council's existing records. So when these notices of determinations are produced, it pulls the records from various parts, including rates, in order to produce those administrative matters on the front page of that notice of determination. So that's what council's current records reflect. Whether that's correct or incorrect, that's a matter that rates will have to advise us on.
So we don't know who the owner is.
Well, the owner's owned by the state of New South Wales. But as I said, the council's records point to the fact that it's the Chinook Bowling and Recreation Club Limited.
Councillor
Okay.
Packer.
Thank you. On a different matter, the expression of interest for the management agreement, which is going to go out concurrent. Structure. How much input will council laws, or will that be something done purely by staff, or will that be something that we see before it goes out? Or, you know, it's obviously something which is a sensitive subject within the community, so I'm just wondering how, you know, once it goes out, it'll be out there, but yeah, setting it beforehand.
Through you, Madam Mayor, so I'd propose to bring the draft EOI, that we're going out to a council workshop, so that council would understand the mechanics of any management agreement going forward. So yes, we would brief council on the EOI management agreement before going public.
Following up on councillor Packard's, I think the director, but I'd like to drill down a little bit harder on that. Who will have the final say on that expression of interest? Because at the last workshop, it became an operational plan. Now, if you look at it as far as operational, that is council staff or determination, or is this goes back to council for council to actually make the final decision on, because there are some very much some financial and other operational bits in there that I do believe that council laws should be made aware of instead of just coming back to a workshop. I would be particularly concerned that if the councillors did not have the final approval on the expression of interest, because there are the financial impacts that this could have on council will reflect greatly back onto council laws.
Do you mean the format of the expression of interest or the?
The money.
That's
I think
right,
I'll
isn't it?
pass this over to the acting general manager.
Through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Sheldon. So council staff will process that, come back, and we will make a recommendation to council, but at the end of the day, council will make,
Thank
the
you.
decision.
That's where I was drilling down to.
There is a question in relation to, has it been considered, and I'll use the example of the Montreal Community Theatre. The Montreal Community Theatre has been operated for over 30 years, a voluntary group that runs and manages the facility. It's a council-owned facility and council pays the rates, but the Montreal Committee does. So is there an opportunity for this centre to actually operate under that? Because let's call it what it is. It was the Basketball Association that wanted news. And they were quite happy to keep running it. So is there the option for it to be run under that, guys, which takes a lot of the responsibility and the costs and the cleaning and the maintenance away from council?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that would be the intent of the expression of interest, would be to tease those sorts of community groups, community stakeholders out and give us, within the framework of the EOI, their best operating model for that facility that council could then determine if that meets council's requirements. But yeah, that's that.
I think, right, moving on from councillor Thompson's comments, I think if we look back at the original grant that it was meant to, this facility was meant to have very little impact on council's financial position, that was user pays. Now that user pays is very broad, but when we're going to get down to the nitty gritty, I think the councillors would want to know how much they're liable for, if any.
Yeah, that's correct. And we have brought to a council workshop a plan, a business plan that would show those sorts of costs that council could be exposed to under 3 different models.
All those in favour? And it's councillor Sheldon. Thank you. I'll leave the chair now to councillor Packer.
All right, councillors, it's 11.2. This is the recommendation concerning the Boom Link Community Investment Program. we've got a recommendation one, A through H. Do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson, and seconded, Councillor Words. Thank you very much. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, or Mr Chair, whichever you prefer today.
Acting Chair, I think.
Acting Chair, Acting Chair.
With pay.
Okay. I think what's really important to understand here is that the communities themselves also have the opportunity to put in expressions of interest for grant funding through the program that we're seeing here. And we're very much aware that not all of these will be funded because we are getting a very small part of a bigger pie, and not even a very big pie. So this is why, for me, I look at this is what council can apply for, but the community itself can apply for all of the other grants that it would like and to put in line its priorities. So I really have nothing else to say about it.
I
Anybody?
have a question. Have these been prioritised at all, Mr Acting Chair?
I think I'll have to ask the AGM if I don't believe there's any priority put on these.
No, through Councillor Packard and Councillor Inglis. No, this isn't in any particular order. These were discussed at a council workshop and are being proposed to be form part of the expressions of interest process, but there's no priority order as such.
Does the first in, best rest, how was the administered?
So it's administered by HumeLink.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Sorry, it's administered by HumeLink. I'm not sure if the T's and C's are attached to the report, but essentially each of the projects have to meet certain criteria. So they have to go through the AOI process as the first step to assess whether they meet the criteria. And then if it does, those projects will then move to the next step. And I think at the end of the day, I think it's voted for by the community. So this is just the first step in the process, is putting these projects forward. Tick, if they meet the criteria, then it will be voted on by the community, is my understanding.
So council doesn't have any input into?
No.
Thank you.
And
I would just like, I think it should be noted that that HumeLink did listen to us when we brought up how much infrastructure was on council land, and they did make adjustments accordingly to the grant quantities.
I'll speak against it. I don't think HumeLink have listened to us at all. I think this report's out of step with the community. I note that the HumeLink West and HumeLink East travels from Mooragle. It goes through a very small portion of private land near Mooragle, and then for the rest of the time it travels from that Tumbarumba area all the way down to Green Hills State Forest in predominantly private land. 99% is private land. Public lands, Forestry National Park, State Forest. So it's in public land all the way. It's not till it gets to Green Hills and the HumeLink West spears off and goes through Darlow and that area that it hits the private land. They're the people who are really affected. At Wandalga, it spears off and does a dog leg and then heads down the Gilmore Valley. That's 2720. Then it goes through basically past Mingery and then through Go Cup all the way to Kilmacat, where it hits a little bit more public lands. The majority of that through that 2720 area is all private land. It affects those people enormously. Now, Tumbarumba, majority of these are Tumbarumba and Batlow. They are both get advantages from HumeLink. They've already had advantages, Tumbarumba, from UGL financially, but it doesn't really affect those landowners up there. Sure, they've got to look at it, but it is in public land. There's nothing here from Adelong, and they're probably, the they make up about 10%. 10% of our population, they pay 12% of our rates. Nobody even came and spoke to an organisation in Adelong. There was very little consultation in Tumut, as far as I'm concerned. And there's not much there from Tumut. I'm just very concerned that this is not taking into consideration the people who are disadvantaged the most. As I said, Tumbarumba's had the advantage of having a camp nearby and getting a financial advantage from that. They've had the UGL. Batlow's about to get a bit of a sugar hit from having a camp nearby. They don't really understand quite yet the financial implications, but it will be positive, I believe, for Batlow. But it doesn't go through very little private land up there. It's all public. It's not till it gets to 2729, 2720, and they're the areas that are ignored in here. Cancoban, it doesn't go anywhere near Cancoban, yet we're considering Cancoban. I just think this is out of step with community, certainly out of step with my expectations, and I'm very disappointed with it.
So, as I understand it, there's a fairly short time frame. So the opportunity would be to either amend this, to potentially drop some out. But there are, and I've been to a number of their consultations. They have had consultations where they've got input and other projects coming in from communities other than council. So these are purely ones that council has identified within our remit, I guess.
Councillor Packard, I've sat in this room for 2 years and I've told them on every occasion, and I've told staff here, that the one thing that we're looking for my community, the Adelong community, is improved accommodation at the Adelong Caravan Park, which is owned by council. So I would have expected that council would have something in there that endorsed that and would be working in a joint venture with the current lessees. I'll leave it at that.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd be getting into it as well. I just don't, I think it's just hush money. That's all it is. It's, piddly little bit here, piddly little bit here, like Snowy Hydro and the rest of them. They think they can just come in and walk all over you and don't give two eggs. Very few of them, reside here. They just come in, come out. The senior management. It's like the transcript, they funded somebody to be on the council, and as Councillor Inglis has rightly said, I think that's a complete conflict of interest. I mean, they've got somebody on the inside. The whole thing needs to be reviewed, I reckon, and this is certainly another demonstration of showing absolute contempt.
Councillor Sheldon?
Well, first of all, when HumeLink did come to us, or Transgrid or HumeLink East, HumeLink West, we did speak to them about the difference between the infrastructure, and they did make adjustments to the total amount they were going to award us through grants. We might all agree that it's chicken feed. The bottom line is they did make adjustments. They did allow more for the Snowy Valleys Council, made up of this grant money. The rest of it, no one's disagreeing. But there is a simple way around it. Read the recommendation, endorse it or don't endorse it. Boom, simple.
Councillor Woods?
Thank you. Councillor Packard, I'd just like to say, yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying. It's definitely not enough compensation for the impact it's going to have on the community of Snowy Valleys at large. Obviously, it's mainly going to affect communities in Tumut, Batlow, Adelong. Understand what Councillor Hayes is saying when it comes to Adelong not being on this list. Perhaps there's a potential to amend this to include the Adelong recommendation. Whether or not there's a master plan for that, I'm not sure. Or any plans to improve that, but it could be included on this as an endorsement. I think these are the cards that we've been dealt. They've got the money on the table. We have to provide projects that we think would be beneficial. I personally think the Batlow side of rail trail would be hugely positive for the Batlow community, and there's probably if all of these projects could be funded, would be great. There's a limited amount of funding available, and it's not up to council to decide which projects get funding, it's HumeLink that decides. And so we just have to give our best options available and see what they say. So if you think, I agree with Councillor Hayes, if you include Adelong Caravan Park in there and if it gets funding for that, then that should be positive and we should include that.
Are you moving that as an amendment?
I'd move that as an amendment.
Seek clarification without closing debate. The projects that are listed here are already projects that council has previously discussed and identified. We have resolutions on our books already for these.
Through to councillor Thompson, that's correct. So there are being identified capital works program, which has been endorsed and gone out of community consultation, or their previous resolutions.
So these specifically have already been identified and raised. Thank you.
I'll speak forward if I can. I think council's done the right thing here in relation to bringing up specific things in each town and location. I mean, there is only a limited amount of funding, and yes, it is not enough. We understand that coming from Transgrid, but to just turn around and say, oh, we're not going to bother applying would be counterintuitive in my point. And from council to turn around and say, look, there are a lot of projects that we've identified from a lot of places. And again, it'll come back to the community and it'll come back to whichever body makes the decisions on this funding. So I would like to see it go forward, and then it can be up to the community to decide where that funding is distributed.
Sorry.
It's not up to the community, it's going to be up to Transgrid at the end of the day.
Oh, Transgrid, Colam and the community, they have some form of community vote on a whole raft of projects coming in from different processes, some of which I believe they're generating themselves.
Yes, and from what I understand, Transgrid will be paying or doing the work themselves.
Correct.
So that money you see there, or the money allocated, that is the proviso that Transgrid do the project.
I'm just
correct.
Yeah. Just want to make everyone aware that not consulted. Nobody came. They went to the other communities. Nobody came up.
So I've just, did you want to move a second,
Well,
an amendment?
Councillor Hayes would like to move the mic like that.
Happy here.
Well, I'd just like to say, I mean, if that's the case that the Adelong community wasn't consulted, and that's the project that they most have the most benefit for the Adelong community, then I think it should be included. Whether or not it was on the capital works project.
It's 10 days before it closes. We've got 10 days before the applications fully closed. We have the time to do that.
Does it have some rough costing? So what's the wording of the amendment? Just to add a GHI, an addition.
Adelong services. Sorry, the Adelong Caravan Park accommodation enhancements. But are you saying, Jay, are you saying council should prepare that submission on their behalf? Or are they going to
just work with them?
But is that the community's wish?
Here's from everything, every organisation I've gone to, yes. Well, there's nothing else, is there?
No, I'm just asking. It's a simple question.
Sorry,
Well,
sorry.
we're happy to work with the Adelong Services Club to prepare their submission. If council votes to add this to the list. Thank you.
So the mover, so that's the amendment is now adding the I in, so we'll vote on.
Doesn't need, if the mover and the seconder agree
Happy
to the addition, it doesn't need to be an
Yeah,
amendment.
councillor Thompson.
And works,
Councillor
you're both happy with that? Do
I accept it.
Okay. you want to close debate?
I will.
Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, acting chair. What's really interesting is that, you know, we seem to sometimes get confused the difference between the social license, which we talk about, we're not getting enough of the pie overall from the multi-billion-dollar project that this is. We are basically getting crumbs. We acknowledge that. But we also acknowledge that the social license is a much broader thing. And Not a single person at this table disputes that for those landowners that are having the imposition of having this destroy a lot of their food producing land and creating angst within their own communities. We don't dispute that. However, the difference between social license and or the funds that we're receiving as opposed to the financial benefit for those landowners, when I say benefit, it's not really a benefit, but they are being remunerated to some extent for having it going through their properties. And so this is a very small way that council can actually acknowledge some of the projects that have been identified through the different workshops that we've had and the processes that we go through. And I acknowledge what Councillor Hayes says about Adlong not having its own specific meeting in that community. However, I travelled to Batlow to one of the meetings because I couldn't make the Tumut one. So they do hold them in various areas and they are open to all members of the community. And it's just an incredibly difficult thing with 10 days to go to suddenly change it. So I accept the inclusion of the Adlong one, but I think sometimes we just need to understand that we can't be all things to all people all the time. And I'm sure that and I'll bring up Taubinga, there are people in Taubinga who feel that they never get included in anything, whether it was after, whether it been flooded, they had other issues as well. Sometimes we need to just bite off the piece that we can actually manage and go with that instead of trying to be all things to all people, because we just can't do it all.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. We'll close the debate. All those in favour? All those against? Councillor Shields. Passed. Thank you, councillors. It just goes to show how difficult it is to give away money.
No, how to
Let me tell you.
decide how to give away money.
We should be careful.
We do. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Packard. So we go to 11.3. Public swimming pools 24-25 season report. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 recommendations there. Do I have a mover? Councillor Thompson, seconder. Councillor Hardwick, Councillor Thompson.
Madam Mayor, I will just ask and seek a clarification because within here it does actually say that we will be providing free adult swimming lessons at all pools. And the question was asked, if we're doing free adult swimming lessons, why are we not providing free junior swimming lessons? And I'd just seek a clarification.
Acting General.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Thompson. So council applied for a grant through Royal Life Saving New South Wales, I think it was. And we were successful in that grant. We applied for 4 particular programs. 3 of them were targeted towards children. So the first one was for children aged 3 and up. That was a 10-day intensive Learn to Swim program. The other 2 programs were targeted towards Year 2 students and then Year 7 students. So they were going to work with the schools and they were going to be offered at all pools across the LGA. We also applied for adult swim lessons, but were unsuccessful with that 4th program.
Which is why we as a council are going to provide adult swimming.
Yeah.
So with that clarification, I'd just like to acknowledge the work that has gone into the production of this report and the number of workshops that we've had to go through it, and to particularly thank the staff. It's not an easy thing, and again, it's always that area. This report actually identifies the opportunity for people to have a greater access to the pools, while trying to look at how do we not have that as a financial impost. And if it works well in the areas that are identified for the upcoming season, there may be options to look at that for further pools across the state.
Councillor Sheldon.
I think these programs that are going to be implemented if everyone votes for them, and used properly through our community engagement policy and programs to increase attendances to the swimming pools, because at the end of the day, the swimming pools actually are 50% of our deficit in our operating budget, and some hard decisions will have to be made in the very near future. And to me, what we're doing is to encourage and build attendance by giving some good programs and some good incentives there. Now it's up to the community, and we have to use our community engagement program.
We have to use our assets. Councillor Hayes, Councillor Lardo.
Earlier on, or last year, we had a vote. Now, I was a bit critical of the way it was actually marketed, which was through the Sydney Morning Herald. I'd like to, it doesn't have to go on this, it can go. I'd like to see that we actually which has the opportunity to save us money and to give people better access at the pool, and also to give some little entrepreneurial flair.
That's outsourcing the management, isn't it?
That's outsourcing the management, yes, the same
We
as
pay
way
them.
Murrumbidgee do. So I'd like to have a look, if we could have a further look at that, look at marketing it only in the region. So from out there, we've got schools of people who have been lifeguards over the years, and may well be able to do it. So we've got people in positions that I know that people in positions walk straight with it. So I'd like to see that, now whether I have to foreshadow an motion, or maybe I could work with the
We'll take it on notice now.
acting manager, has some marketing experience, I believe, hopefully. Good. And if we did some really good comms around this, we put something in the local paper, I'm sure we'd have people and passionate to run our swimming pools, and it will save us money.
Thanks, Councillor Hayes. Councillor Lardo.
Well, look, I speak against it, because, I've been of the belief, that we should be operating the pools free of charge. The social benefit outweighs the council trying to save us lunch money. And that's all we're doing here, tinkering around the edges. If we were running a business, we'd be bankrupt, because we don't have the income sources. And I don't know how many times we have to say it. The Premier or Mr. Hernig, who's, big on making announcements about demergers, he needs to get fair income and actually start giving local government the resources, which are the financial resources, to do its job. These people are living in another world. They're not living with the constraints that regional councils are. Might be all right down at North Sydney or down at Boston,
Or Sydney.
not here. This is completely different. The benefit and impact that decision had during our previous terms of council was phenomenal, and the outcomes were phenomenal, and everyone benefited. And I think it's absolutely ludicrous that, here we are trying to find, these savings when they're not there to be found. At the end of the day, you're tinkering around the edges. It's just crazy. And, the sooner we put forward a motion to say to the Premier, you need to intervene in local government and start getting fair income about the resourcing of it, then we might be on the right path. But as it goes, we'll just keep racking up deficits in budgets. And
I think the Country Mayors Association agree with you and sent out a circular about that this week. Very much the same. Okay, and Councillor Sheldon.
Well, look, it does concern me. I listen to what Councillor Lardo is saying. There is one thing about this, is we're trying to increase the attendance and increase the income coming in. I do have concerns. When you look at last year, $1.6 million over what it was meant to cost, we got some real concerns with our swimming pools. And the bottom line is, as I say, if things like this don't work, we've got to make some real hard decisions. And it's unfortunate for the community. Swimming pools might have been something 50 years ago, but they're not the same as what they were today, and we might have to look at closing some.
Councillor Thompson, would you like to close the argument?
I think it's all been said. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All those in favour? Against, Councillor Lardo and Councillor Sheldon. Thank you, councillors. 11.4, removal of positive. What? Walls Creek Road, Goober Grand. Two recommendations there. Councillor Latta, Councillor Packard, Councillor Latta. Any other discussion?
Just to make sure that it's only that short thing. Make it share.
Yep.
215, 196.
All those in favour? Unanimous. 11.5, request for road closure and sale, lot BP 255952 off Snowy Mountains Highway, Tumut. Do I have a mover for six recommendations? Moved by councillor Hayes, seconded by councillor Hybrid. Councillor Hayes.
Look, I think there's probably lots of portions of land around that are like this, and it's probably timely to tidy them up, especially if there's income.
Councillor Thompson.
I have a bit of a query in it in relation to, because, and rightly so, we have no idea who has put the expression of interest in to acquire and purchase the land. But I do have to note that there already appears to be an awful lot of work having been undertaken on a section of that land out there. So whether or not it's already commenced and whether there's an assumption that the land will be sold to them, but how will the value of that land be assessed? Please. I know, but just so that we understand.
The Director of Infrastructure.
Yeah, the value of the land will be assessed for what we call the highest and best use. So it'll be the value of the land zoning, the current, not necessarily the current land zoning, but the future land zoning, if the land zoning is current.
So another point of clarification. So if that goes ahead, will all neighbours be notified that it's coming up for sale and be given the opportunity to purchase it?
No, for you, Madam Mayor, because council, the other neighbours, because this land is within the subdivision, the other neighbours will be able to purchase it.
It's enclosed, isn't it?
Yeah. There's only one person that can possibly buy this.
Thank you.
I think it's got that as well.
Councillor Hayes, are you ready to close?
Look, it's less than an acre of land. And I think it makes sense.
All those in favour? Unanimous. 11.6, leasing transaction report, the fourth quarter, 24-25. One recommendation there. Councillor Packard, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Packard.
I just think it's really interesting to see this and the start of what will be an interesting journey as we see these coming through, because we have such a large number of cases.
Just the age of the arrears.
Mayor, the age of the arrears, the majority of the arrears, only for the last quarter, the fourth quarter. There is one that goes back further than that in the confidential attachment, which I can't discuss, but in the confidential attachment, when we get to that section, if we want, we can point which one out is aged beyond the fourth quarter.
Okay, councillor Packard. Yep. All those in favour? Unanimous. 11.7, expressions of interest outcome, lot 1 DP 1163661 Cap Street, Tumut.
I'll move that, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, do I have a mover? Councillor Thompson?
Point of order.
Councillor, yes. Councillor Inglis.
I'm just wondering, maybe it's not a point. The general manager, acting general manager has declared a conflict of interest.
Yep.
And I note that the responsible director is the acting general manager.
Well, that does
Is
seem.
that appropriate?
So maybe, Just wondering who to speak to today.
Who's changing?
Sorry.
Through the chair, essentially, the responsible director that comes in this, so there's an approvals process that happens through our business paper reporting system that basically nominates those people. It's not so much that the person that has a conflict has reviewed the report, it's just the way that the actual system's generated it. If I can say it that way to the minister.
So that person's not actually supporting the submission made by the Director of Infrastructure.
Correct.
It doesn't look good at all.
Probably
Yeah.
should it be changed?
I think we'd all feel a lot more comfortable if it was changed. Can we put that recommendation to? Yeah, we'll follow that up, councillor Inglis.
I think it's not a good.
It's not a good look. You agree. Okay, so we've got 5 recommendations there, councillor Sheldon.
No, I've got a following question then. Because
Point
that
of order.
is a point of order, yeah, well, it is a point of order. Because that is the way it is now, how valid is this report?
Okay, so we've got a mover in councillor Thompson, a seconder in councillor Hardwick. Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
So who seconded councillor Hardwick? Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think in relation to, because we already understand that there is in place a system for the probity with the acting director of corporate. I understand the concern of being printed in black and white, but I'm happy to accept or to move the report with the change of that wording at the top of that document to identify that it has gone through the acting director, because we do have that probity in place already. Madam Mayor, I think when you look at what this has the potential to offer our community, it's gone through all of the checks and balances, it's gone out for public exhibition, or it's not public exhibition, but the expressions of interest were called through in an enormous area to be covered. And I think when you look at what this proposal actually offers in relation to all of the suite of documents in relation to how and it's the development of an area that's at no cost to council, and the proponent is responsible for all costs up until the point where they actually start construction and development. So I think it's a win-win situation all round, and I think it's an absolute positive for one of our major entrances into town, and I think it could be quite exciting to see.
Any other speakers? Councillor Inglis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm wondering whether or not the proposal is competent, because as set out in 8.3, the outstanding resolution. The resolution that is outstanding is receive a further report on the outcome of expressions of interest. We've got that, and we know there's only one. But the next step was receive a report on potential future uses of the site. And I don't see that has been reported. If that's not the case, the resolution has not been complied with.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the report on the potential future use of the site is the EOI submission.
Well, no, that's a report from council.
That's what
That's required. We do not have a report from council as to the alternative uses of the site. And one, for example, might be that it remains green space. I don't know. But I can't see that the resolution has been complied with. And if that's the case, we cannot move on with the issue further until it is. That's the first thing.
So councillor Inglis, can I just ask what page?
I haven't finished.
I'm just asking what page the point is on that you've raised.
152.
What councillor Inglis is talking about, councillor Thompson, is page 42.
Yeah, he's gone back to the resolution right at the beginning of the paper. And within that, there was a motion that hasn't been acted on.
Correct.
Yes.
So the report has to be.
I made that.
Councillor Inglis, councillor Sheldon is waving his hand. Would you mind?
Oh, actually, well,
No, we'll come back to you
I'm
But-
happy for that, for councillor Sheldon.
To wave his hand.
to wave his hand.
And to speak.
It's also, And I do understand what councillor Inglis is saying, but it also says a due date, the 30th of 7th, so the due date hasn't arrived yet. So when is that actual thing for receive a further report to potential uses of the site? And my question is, has this come to council a month early? Considering we are only at the 17th of the 7th.
Yeah,
Infrastructure?
Through you, Madam Mayor, Council, I think, in my opinion anyway, the resolution number 3 from back in 21 November 2024 might be interpreted the wrong way. I firmly believe that this report, which now identifies the expressions of interest that council has received, outlines the potential future uses of the site. And those potential future uses of the site were teased out through the expression of interest. We did only get one expression of interest, and that expression of interest outlined the potential future uses of that site. If we had received more expressions of interest, we possibly could have seen more potential future uses of that site. But I think it's clear in the report that council has not, council's land here, which it's had originally purchased for the purposes of a interpretive centre, were not followed through, and therefore that use of the site has now passed. And that site was done back in 2000, August 2000. The land's been sitting there now for 25 years, and I think the expression of interest that you've got in front of you today gives you an update and reasonably, I can't speak on behalf of development, but reasonably viable future use for that site. So I don't think we haven't met, in my opinion, we haven't met receiving a report on the potential future uses of your site. The report you've got before you today is that report.
Madam, can I move that we
haven't-
go into committee?
Councillor,
Can I move that we go into committee? Because if I speak, I close the vote.
well, you can we'll just finish with councillor Inglis and his clarification.
The other point that I wanted to make, I think it's a done deal, but when we go into, if we go into committee, I'll explain why.
Okay.
But my point is, the reason is that the expression of interest, or another reason, is that 5.2 of the originating document set out financial criteria. And it said all submissions must demonstrate financial capacity to meet the obligations outlined in the offer of council. The financial criteria category of this EIO is weighted at 75%. And it says the evidence that council will consider are a financial statement from a registered accountant or financial institution detailing the respondent's current financial position and capacity to meet the commercial offer obligations, as well as any additional capital improvements, amenity benefits and or contributions in order to cite that the respondent is proposing as part of the offer. And the response in the BOI to that is financial capacity statement, which is signed by, I imagine, the managing director of the applicant, one Tom Quilty, certifying that the company has the financial capacity to meet its obligations. That is not a financial statement that complies with the EIO. So until such time as the expression of interest becomes compliant, we can't consider it.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'd suggest the statement they've provided is the best information we've got. They've given an undertaking in writing that they have the capacity to deliver the EOI that's in front of council. I don't know what more we could ask for from them other than financial statement.
EOI says, and that is a financial statement that will be acceptable is one from an accountant. We don't have.
Can we follow that up?
We can follow that and find and get that from them. But I'd also point out that at this stage, all that we're asking council to enter into is to look at an options agreement in which then we bring the details of that options agreement back to council, and that options agreement would have the detail, I believe, that you're looking for to progress this or not progress this in terms of how this could be realised from a financial perspective, bearing in mind that council is not the developer here and council doesn't be the developer here. That would come back to council as the recommendation suggests, once we have an idea of what that options agreement is. We don't have it, we don't.
Perhaps we should move it.
Can I suggest we refer
Councillor Thompson, you're going to go into committee? Do I
I'd
have
like
a
to go into
seconder?
committee because I really want to say something, and if
Yeah.
I speak,
Yeah,
I
you have a
close
seconder.
debate.
Councillor Thompson. Do I have a
I
seconder?
move that we go into.
Seconder is Councillor Hardwick.
Sheldon's leaving the room.
Councillor, who are we up to?
We need to vote on
We
that.
vote on going
Oh,
into
yeah,
committee.
all those in favour? Councillor Hayes, you're against going into committee?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Right. Everyone bar Councillor Hayes says go into committee. Okay. Councillor Thompson.
Madam Mayor, this really concerns me. The council was approached by somebody to purchase land that has been sitting there doing nothing, that we spend money on maintaining and growing so that it doesn't look like a complete eyesore as the entrance to our town. We then had to go out for another expression of interest because we needed to make sure that we weren't going to miss some amazing organisation or individual who would develop the land. So we've done all of that. We've ticked every box. We've dotted our I's and crossed our T's. Councillor Inglis has put forward his opinion on the resolution. It doesn't say that it needs to be a specific report. It just says receive a report on potential future uses. And that's what the second point is. The first one is to receive a further report on the outcome of the expression of interest, which we've received. We're now receiving another report because the development itself outlines all of the various uses. We've had no other expressions of interest. How much time are we going to waste, and how much are we going to put on our staff who are already pushed to the limit to try and meet all of the deadlines and the criteria that we keep asking them to meet? This is an opportunity that is not going to cost council money. It's merely asking that we go to the next step. So financially, I would understand that the expression of, or the next step of this would actually be somewhere that we could ask for that. Why are we going to continually put barriers up in front? And it's something that the community raises time and time again. Why does council put barriers up to development? And this is exactly what they talk about. In my opinion, I believe that the reports that we're receiving today meet both of those recommendations or resolutions as far as the thing. And I think that the proposal that we've been given identifies the use of accommodation. It includes businesses, it includes recreational, it includes nature spaces. It identifies a lot of different uses, and we've had not a single other expression of interest. Council can't afford to keep maintaining a piece of land that we're not going to be developing. And we don't have the
It's
money.
only an option. It's only an option.
It is an option.
And there's no price, and it's for 4 years. What if someone comes along during that 4 years and makes us another offer, which makes us an offer, which is attractive? We're bound by the option.
Well, we are not going.
How's that commercially?
No,
Over to the Director of Infrastructure.
Don't
Through you, Madam Mayor,
understand.
no, we're not, because we haven't seen the options. So we're not bound to it, and that can be a discussion had when the options agreement is brought to council. What binds council to this agreement in the interim that another proposal doesn't come forward during that time? And that can be easily nutted out in the options agreement that we haven't seen yet.
I disagree.
We can.
Okay. Any other speakers?
Just to say, 25 years we've been sitting on it. Yeah. I mean, I was on council when we were going to build this amazing thing. There's been no interest in it since. I think it's a landmark piece of
With two hands.
property and
Councillor Webb.
I think this proposal looks great. On paper, it looks fantastic. Like it's, I
Hydrotherapy.
can't
pool.
really fault the proposal at all. It looks great. Looks like it's a perfect option, but just my only question is, what's the likelihood that they could go into this options agreement and then get down the road and completely change this plan to something totally different? It's been proposed. Is
That's
that,
a good question.
do they have the maneuverability within that agreement that they?
We haven't seen the agreement. yet.
Right, but I mean-
So these are the things, and I think it'll be a good idea, and I'm not spruiking this on part of the developer. It'll be a good idea if council votes to go to the next stage of this, which is an options agreement, is to call the developer in and have a discussion with council, so you can ask them directly these questions about how viable, how actually realistic is this development. At the moment, all we've got is what they've put to us in writing. I'd be more than happy, if we are going to progress to the next stage, to invite them in. And that would give them a good idea of how to formulate the options agreements once they understand what council's questions are, what council's expectations are. And then they would go away at their cost and prepare an options agreement.
I think for all parties involved, it would probably be good to be something included in the workshops to.
But they need to understand whether they stop spending money on this now, because this has cost them probably upwards of $15,000 to $20,000 to put in. And they need to understand, do we stop and walk away because we're not going to get any traction here and focus our energy and resources somewhere else? Or if council is serious about it, do we go to the next step?
Councillor England.
I was just going to inquire, would it not be more practical to meet with the developer and discuss it with him and or his accountant before we go into the next?
I think you could do it. I think you could do it concurrently, Councillor Inglis, and you know, do both that. Ask them to start to draft an options agreement, and then have a meeting with council to discuss exactly how viable your development is, and answer your queries and worries about concerns about whether this locks council into for 4 years a proposal that may not be viable.
Well, I'm very concerned with it.
So, yeah, and that's a reasonable concern to have. So that's why we could only see that in an options agreement that they would prepare and then come and discuss with them.
Councillor
To
Watts.
move out of committee.
Do I have a second, Councillor Packard? All those in favour? Unanimous. That hand was up, Councillor Hayes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Thompson.
Mine wasn't.
Just to,
Oh, no, sorry, Councillor Larder, did you want to say
I was
something?
just going to ask whether councillor Inglis's option for that developer and accountant could be included in this.
It's one of the recommendations. Yeah. Why not add it in as a final recommendation for Madam Mayor?
So that was
Flag, this
moved
is
by
bloody
councillor
thing.
Thompson. You're happy with that, councillor Thompson? That gets added? Yeah.
Yeah, probably after 4 really. And say, and the proponent of the EOI is invited to council to discuss the options agreement.
Question clear.
I think it should be required, not invited. You might decline the invitation.
Required to come to count. Where are you? Let's have a look. And so when you start 5, Jenny, and the proponent,
It's got to read from that council.
that
So that
council,
council-
oh, sorry, yeah, requires the
Requires-
proponent, yeah, thank you, to present to council the options agreement.
Did you want financial?
And
accountants.
financial capability.
A letter from the accountant.
I think that's what.
Councillor Thompson,
That's
you
what
had.
it's required.
Well, we won't
Well,
make it that
accept it,
specific. Their financial
Yes.
capability might be
Accept it.
more than a letter to
And
the
I think it
accountant.
was councillor
Hardwick.
Hardwick, you were the second.
party.
Yeah,
I'm happy with that.
You're happy with that? Thank you. Now, you've got a question or clarification, councillor Sheldon?
No, my head's been spun out here, I tell you.
Okay. Are we happy for councillor
red
Thompson to
flag.
close the argument? debate.
To get rid of the bow
Hey.
Did you want to say something?
I'll speak for it if I can, just quickly. It looks fantastic. Looks like a fantastic development, and as the first parcel land as you drive into town, if this was to go ahead and this is what you would see a fantastic development happening here in the Snow Valley.
I'll just ask one final question, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. What would the required zoning be to accommodate the mixed use that's proposed?
Exactly that. It's mixed use.
Mixed use.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You know, I've sat here and I wonder why any developer would want to come to Snowy Valleys if every time they put up something, there's a knock it down or put a barrier in front of it. This is the sort of thing that council is begging for others to come and spend their money in our local government area. It's money that we don't have to spend providing the points within our community strategic plan, the housing, the development of all of these wonderful things. And, you know, we need to be encouraging these people to be creative and come to our community. We don't want to constantly knock them and make it so difficult that they walk away and spend their money elsewhere. We need developments like this across the Snowy Valleys, not just in Tumut, but across our Snowy Valleys. But if this is the welcome that we're going to give people.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
Accept it.
Okay, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Sheldon's against and Councillor Hayes?
I'm actually against, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Councillor Inglis and Councillor Hayes against.
No,
Who did I say? Hayes, sorry. Sheldon and Inglis against. Thank you. Okay, 12.1 minutes, youth council. Can I have a mover? Councillor Sheldon, Councillor Ryder. Anything to say?
No. Keep up the good work. Councillor Works.
Sorry, I'm just getting, I'd like to say something.
Oh, really? Councillor Words.
I'll just, yeah, there has been an issue with membership. I'd like to see more young people getting involved in the youth council. Because it is a great committee and great youth council, but they're doing some great work. The members that are on that at the moment, so hopefully we can get some more participation from the Snowy Valleys. I'd like to see some more members from Tumbarumba getting involved too. So currently there's lack thereof, so hopefully we can attract some more members from the community. So yeah, thanks.
Any other speakers? I'm happy to put that motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. We will now move into confidential, where councillors participate in meeting remotely by audio visual link. They continue to be obliged to protect any confidential information considered at the meeting. That's not an issue today. So we can go to confidential.
Going.